Hey everybody, this is Jacqueline Lukman,
And I'm at this Shahid Lukman.
and this is Coffee Current Events and Politics in Lukman Nation with Atlas and Jackie Lukman. I do this every time. And this is Coffee Current Events. There we go. Let's get rid of that. So this week, first of all, let me say to all of our viewers, thank you guys for joining us, and happy Easter, blessed Passover, happy Ishtar, happy Ostara or Ostara, or however that's pronounced, I'm not sure. But however you commemorate this day, whether it be Resurrection Day as a Christian or fertility as an atheist or a pagan or a Wiccan, or you don't celebrate it or commemorate it as any special day at all, thank you all for joining us. We appreciate you spending time with us today. Um, so we got a lot to cover because we weren't able to do a show last week because of some unexpected family issues. But in the meantime, so much stuff has happened. We bombed Syria again.
Yeah, well, sure did.
And we dropped what is called the mother of all bombs on Syria, which was just ridiculous. And first of all, I didn't even know we had such a thing called the mother of all. I just think that's ridiculous that we have a piece of military ordnance that actually has a name that appallingly braggadocious and just it's just so cheesy, man. The mother of all bombs. Um, so we've been talking a lot about income inequality and why we can't have nice things in this country and how can we pay for the things we want and this whole mother of all bombs business.
I have to keep laughing at that.
Laughing.
A guy, a man had their name down. You can find all kinds of sexual innuendos with that. The mother of all bombs. Come on, it is crazy.
I think it's so ridiculous that the name of that thing is the mother of all bombs. But we're talking about why we can't have nice things, and it always comes down to money for the politicians, right? And we've been having this conversation for quite some time about why people who subscribe to a certain economic theory don't quite we're just annoyed with the whole conversation because we don't believe that the issue is that the people who matter don't know how the economy works. Of course they know how the economy works. That's why they do the stuff they do, because they know doggone well they can just print the money that they want to pay for the things that they want to pay for. So they know what MMT is, and they know how MMT works. And us knowing MMT, it's good to know, but it's not going to change their behavior because they've always known. And this is why. I hope. Let me see if I can expand that or make it a little bit bigger so you can see. This is why the whole MMT argument kind of ticks me off. And it's not that we shouldn't talk about it. It is that I think there is an inordinate amount of focus paid attention to it. And when you have genuine questions about it, then people don't want to answer your questions when you genuinely are like, okay, so great, federal taxes don't fund spending. So then what impetus do we have to force corporations and wealthy people to pay their share of taxes if federal taxes don't fund spending? I mean, if you can't answer basic questions like that, if you're going to bash people for being ignorant and stupid when they ask legitimate, logical, simple questions, then I'm questioning your theory of why you believe what you believe. But here is why focusing so much on MMT is a problem for me. Um, According to Business Insider, the U.S. The U.S.'s massive ordnance air blast bomb. That's the technical name for it.
Right.
But the puffed out chest, military chest beating name for it is mother of all bombs. Does not cost 314 million or 16 million, but $170,000 a unit. The U.S. Air Force told Business Insider on Friday. The nickname, the mother of all bombs, was produced by the Air Force, not by a third party like Lockheed or Boeing.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't think we're on.
What are we having a problem connecting?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's see. Let me check and see what's going on. Let's
If we are on,
bear with us for a couple of minutes.
Right.
While we close that. Oh, let's see. All right, let me see what's going on. Scrolling down, scrolling down, scrolling down. Well, it looks like we are still on. Somebody send us a message and send me a message and let us know you can still hear us and see us. Well, it looks like we are still on. Yes, we are. Okay. All right. So let me go back. You got it?
Yeah, computer says working fine.
Okay, good. Okay. Sorry about that. This is what happens when you produce your show on a shoestring with a shoestring and bubble gum. But anyway, so there were all these numbers bantied about regarding how much the mother of all bombs actually cost. Right. Well, according to the Air Force, it only cost $170,000. Here's my problem with that. The Air Force is reporting this, and I don't really believe that. I don't entirely believe the Air Force because I don't entirely believe the Pentagon because they're the people who lost $5 trillion and nobody nobody cared. So let me click on this link that says 314 million to see what it does say. That's a tweet. That's a tweet. Yeah, we don't want to do that.
But I mean, they said that the Tomahawk missiles that were fired into Syria, that each Tomahawk missile cost like $1.2 million.
Right. Okay.
And I can't believe that the mother of all bombs. And look, if that offends me because I don't think mothers would do that. But what I'm saying is that this Moab bomb, this massive non-nuclear bomb, it's as high as a 3-story building. That's how tall it is. It's as high as a 3-story building. It has a blast yield of over a mile or about a mile. And what it actually does is suck out all the air in the atmosphere and in the area, suck out the oxygen, and basically just sets the air on fire. I mean, that's just what it does. I mean, it's really a barbaric weapon. And so I can't believe that a bomb like that would cost less than
the Tomahawk,
which we just take a whole handful of them and just throw them at people.
Right. I mean, so when you look at how much the Tomahawk missile cost, which was what was that cost again? What was that price tag? 1.2 million.
For each Tomahawk.
Come on, the Air Force is lying about $170,000 to create the mother of all bombs. Come now. But see, we have an arsenal of these mother of all bombs. We have 30 of them?
No, well, they said that when they were developed in 2002 by Boeing, it actually built the weapon.
Right.
That the Air Force bought 5 of them. and that this one that they dropped in Afghanistan was already there. I mean, they didn't have to send
Right,
for it.
right,
It
right.
was it was there since I believe like maybe 2012 or something like that, and they were just waiting, as they claim, a suitable target to use it. But I mean, come on, we knew even when you and I saw the headline, Jackie. We already called it before the media called it. We said that this was more of a message to North Korea, China, and Russia than it was than it was about destroying underground tunnels
Right,
for ISIS, because we even talked about how the United States has specific weapons for that. We call them daisy cutters,
right. Or
bunker busters.
bunker busters.
Right, right. We have these type of weapons. And the fact that the media just cheered this on, and that's something that we're going to talk about too, is how come that we don't have the type of media that questions the motives of the government. I mean, they just cheered this on. I mean, it was just like, it was no opposition whatsoever. And when we go back to the Moab bomb, pardon me, that was definitely a signal to North Korea and everybody else. And then the mainstream media came on and said, "Oh yeah. It was it was a message to North Korea because
Right.
it wasn't even necessary to use that bomb. I mean, historically, and I know on your show Brick by Brick you deal with the history. When we go back historically, we realize that we've done this. The United States government done this with the atomic bombs. I mean, the military at that time said that it wasn't necessary to drop atomic bombs on Japan.
Right.
But Truman wanted to posture in front of Stalin and say, "Look what we got. Don't mess with us."
Right.
This kind of stuff. So I mean, we're still doing the same thing. I think the sad part is that once again, we have this disgraceful legacy of using these type of weapons, dropping it always on the poorest people.
All the time.
All the time. We've been bombing Afghanistan for like 16 years.
I mean, Afghanistan basically it's like a speck of dust. I mean, Syria. And I know that some people will celebrate that kind of thing. We were watching a video before we came on of Geraldo Rivera on the Jimmy Dore show, and Geraldo Rivera said, the thing that I've enjoyed the most in my 16 years of being on Fox News is that I get to watch bombs being dropped on bad guys.
Oh my God.
That is just so obscene that this is our media now. Now, we expect that kind of crap from Fox News, right? That's not a surprise. But what is shocking people, and I also don't understand why this is shocking people if you've been listening to folks before now, which I know that people haven't been, but it's shocking people that Democrats are strangely silent. Not only silent on pushing back on these military actions that Trump is approving, but that Democrats are actually coming out and condemning other Democrats for questioning. Don't you think we should have waited until we had confirmation that the gas attack in Syria was done by Assad? I mean, so
right.
People are coming after Tulsi Gabbard now, and wanting her head for just saying, maybe we should have confirmed that this was done by the Syrian government before we decided to launch some missiles and destroy the airbase, because that airbase is still there. As a matter of fact, planes took off from the airbase the next day, so we didn't destroy anything in Syria.
No, we wasted just $1 billion.
We just wasted $1 billion throwing missiles at the airbase in Syria after we told the Syrians that we were going to do it. After we told the Russians that we were going to do it, everybody was able to, it was a big PR stunt. And if you watched my live stream earlier last week, I talked about how historically this is what presidents whose approval ratings are in the toilet do. They pick a target, usually in the Middle East, and they say, these people are our enemies, they've gotten out of hand, and we've got to bomb them to show them who's boss. And that's how they get the support of the American people behind them. We bomb countries to boost the approval ratings of presidents who are unpopular. It's what we do. And that's all the bombing in Syria was. And like Abdus just said, the bombing in Afghanistan with the Moab, the destroying of tunnels, that the tunnels were actually not built by the Afghan. The tunnels weren't built by ISIS. Okay, the tunnels are actually a network of tunnels that have been in existence for centuries, and they were used by the Afghans in salt mining. I mean, for centuries.
Right, right.
Not only that, some of the tunnels actually were built by the CIA. So we have this propaganda machine in this country where our media actively lies to us. They don't even sort of halfway tell us the truth, right? Because everything we heard about the destruction of these tunnels was that ISIS built the tunnels or the terrorists built the tunnels, and we're taking out the terrorists with Moab and destroying the tunnels that they built. They didn't build these tunnels.
And then they go on and they say that the bomb killed 36 ISIS fighters.
Mm-hmm.
How do we know that? And what I'm saying is that the reason why I think that presidents are allowed to bomb people who they know we don't care about,
Mm-hmm.
who they know that the American people don't care about. They're just some people in a patch of desert over there, and they know that most Americans don't care about what happened to those people. So I think that the reason why that a lot of presidents are allowed to get away with that is because the press, unlike during the Vietnam War era, the press has successfully sanitized warfare for the American people.
Oh yeah,
we don't see the human cost of that. All we get is a ticker tape down at the bottom saying that the United States launched a strike on such and such a stand, and that 36 rebel fighters or terrorists were killed, and that's it.
Right.
I mean, we have been effectively cut off and by the media of seeing the carnage of what warfare actually is. So then when you drop a bomb, I mean, we don't think about it. Unlike during the Vietnam era when, we saw, the people at that time, I was a baby then, but we saw, our parents saw, and the people saw at that time, the human cost of warfare. They saw what Agent Orange done to people,
right,
to our own soldiers.
Right.
They saw what this massive bombing did to villages in Cambodia
mm-hmm.
and Laos and all these other things. And when that was thrown across our TV screens, it was like, oh wow! I mean, it affected us. It affected us on a very deep human level, where we had to say, look, we know we're better than this. We can't go on and kill people like this,
right?
But today, that's all taken away from us.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see that.
Right, and it's shameful in a way because we're supposed to be the most technologically advanced generation of any generation that has come before us in this country, but yet we can't, or we won't. It's because it's not that we can't. We won't use that technology to find the truth, to go out and get the truth. I mean, I had a conversation with somebody about this whole bombing Afghanistan thing, and it was just amazing how readily this person parroted back the talking points that she'd heard from the news. I mean, it was just like, well, listen, I hate Obama because I don't believe in killing babies, as if that is, but I don't have a problem with what we did in Afghanistan because we only destroyed tunnels, we only destroyed cave systems. We were told,
as if she was there to see that.
That's the thing. It's like, wait, last time I checked, you were in your house over in Reston. So how do you know what we actually? The media told you that region was isolated, but that's actually not true itself. That region that the tunnel system that was targeted is in, actually it has villages with people living in the villages. From the mere concussion of the bomb that was dropped in Afghanistan, a father and his son were killed.
Yeah, a teacher and his son.
A teacher and his son were killed. They were in their house. But see, we believe what the media tells us.
And the media believes what the military-industrial complex tells them.
Right. So listen, when people have been yelling and screaming about how much money the Department of Defense has been sucking up regardless of where the money comes from. I don't care whether it's our federal taxes that pads or fuels the budget, or whether they print the money from a printer in the basement. The fact that the Department of Defense could lose $5 trillion and not care and not suffer any kind of repercussions and continue to go on and do business as usual. I don't understand why we believe what these people say. So when the Air Force says, oh, well, no, it doesn't cost millions of dollars to build the mother of all bombs. It only costs 170. Why would you believe them? Why would you believe these people? But when we can see the results of what they're really doing, politicians know full well they can afford to pay for whatever the hell they want to. They do it all the time. So,
and I think that's the reason why, this constant, as you were stating earlier, I think that's the reason why this constant push for understanding MMT is kind of redundant. Because, I mean, it's clear, it's clear that the government can pay for whatever the hell it wants to pay for. And I think that Trump kind of gave away the secret when during the debates when he was talking about not paying taxes. And he said, well, maybe that makes me smart. And I think that, and I think he got a point there. I think we're the ones who aren't smart, because I think that the Billionaire Club understands that the government doesn't really need their money. And that's the reason why, they say, well, you guys out there, it reminds me, this is how I look at it, is that it reminds me during the time when most of the population was illiterate. And you only had a handful of the priesthood who understood what was in the Bible and all this other kind of stuff. And so, it's like the priesthood understood that there was a lot of bull crap going on.
Right.
In order to keep the population at bay, it's like, okay, it's fine if you believe that. We know better,
Right,
and I think it's the same way with this whole tax thing. I think that, they keep spoon feeding us the lie that about taxes, funding, spending, and all this other kind of stuff. But I think the people inside, they know it doesn't. And that's the reason why they're like, I can keep my money because you don't need it.
Exactly.
So that's that thing. When we pull back the curtain to see the wizard, we understand who the wizard really is.
Right, exactly. And the thing is, the people who have been working with the wizard, they know who he is. They've known who he is all along. They know what the wizard's up to. They know the wizard's game. I mean, I just feel like we focus so much, we, meaning we in the progressive movement, focus so much on stuff that it is such a distraction from what we really, really need to be focusing on. Like, okay, this tax march that happened, I guess it happened, what was it, yesterday or Friday or what? And at first I thought, okay, this is good. We're going to have a march, national march for people to demand tax reform, for fair tax. No, that's not what the march was about. It was about forcing Donald Trump to release his tax returns.
Yeah.
Now look here. I have known that Donald Trump is a lying, stealing, thieving, low-down, racist megalomaniac for a long time. Most of the people who live in New York City who have had to deal with that dude and his messed up policies, well, not policies, but his messed up business practices. I mean, do you know that the people of New York City actually hate him? I mean, they hate Donald Trump. They've always hated Donald Trump because he is like the venture capitalist of real estate in New York. People hate that guy. But see, we don't pay attention to what other people say. We always have to have all of this extra proof, right? When we want to have a reason to actually mobilize against someone, and I don't understand what that is. It's like we've been telling you how horrible Donald Trump is since the beginning. I mean, the beginning. But nobody believed us. It didn't matter that he took out full-page ads calling those 5 young men in the Central Park case who were wrongfully convicted and imprisoned. Didn't matter that he took out 5 full-page ads calling them animals. Didn't matter that he took out full-page ads after the city of New York settled the case for wrongfully convicting and imprisoning them and calling the settlement of that case the worst theft of New York City in the history of New York City. Didn't matter that he's been sued for racial discrimination in his housing
Twice, I think.
twice.
Yeah.
One of the largest lawsuits of that kind in New York City at the time. None of that stuff mattered. Y'all still need to see this man's tax returns to believe that he is a corrupt liar. And people still need to see his tax returns because they want proof of his connections to Russia.
But this is one of the reasons why I think that the whole progressive movement in this country, I think that it's those type of distractions that derailed Occupy Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
It's those type of distractions. Occupy Wall Street started off great, and it had a targeted enemy, had a targeted focus.
Yep.
It had its message was clear, but then when the tentacles started going off into this and going off into that, and then all of these other interests came in, and then all of a sudden now it just derailed what the movement was all about. And what happened was it fizzled and it died.
Right.
And that's the reason why the progressive movement, I think, so much is not as effective as it could be, is because of this type of stuff.
Right.
It's because of, well, let's look at Trump's tax returns, or let's see how much if Trump Towers, if the Trump Hotel in Washington D.C. Really getting their sheets from China, and all this other, because he said, those type of things, man. I think that we need to leave to the side. Whether we protest his tax returns or not, we ain't gonna be able to force that man to release them. Yeah, and
right.
Besides, he's president now.
Exactly.
So I mean, it's not like they're gonna be like, oh, well, you know what? We didn't like some of your tax returns, so we're just gonna just impeach you. That's not gonna happen.
Right.
So I think that we have bigger fish to fry, as my mother used to say, and I think that if the progressive movement, if we focus more on the issues that's affecting everyday Americans. That's why we got Trump. We got Trump because the so-called progressives, wasn't focusing on what everyday Americans were worried about.
Exactly.
It was about organics and veganism and thisism and thatism. And you got people down in West Virginia saying, man, I just want a fucking job.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I mean, you got people in Baltimore talking about, man, I just want decent schools. I just don't want to be beat up by the cops every day.
Right.
I don't give a damn whether what I'm eating is going to kill me. The cop on the block's going to kill me before this damn steak sandwich will. So so I think that we don't look. Most of the so-called left wing or progressives are not really behind the $15 an hour wage movement. Especially the Democrats aren't.
Yep.
And so what we're seeing is the fact that we are not. We're not once again targeting on what everyday people want.
Yep.
Long as we allow ourselves to be distracted by Trump's tax returns on who's eating here and who's got this and whether it's any other, Russia and all this stuff. Look, people, leave it alone. Leave it alone. Let's focus on what's happening to the rank and file everyday American in this country. And I guarantee you, once we start addressing their needs, which is our needs also, then we will see that we can start making changes here.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, and speaking of the addressing the needs of everyday Americans, so there was this, I guess, Trump supporting protest in Berkeley somewhere, and it turned into a physical confrontation, and in that instance, the Trump supporters outnumbered the anti-fascist resistors, and the Trump supporters. There was this video of this woman who was punched by one of these alleged Trump supporters, and for the life of me, I don't understand why these people walk away upright from these incidences. Because listen, I know that this is not a popular thing to say, but let me tell you something. Some of the people who are serious white supremacists, white nationalists, straight up fascists, they're not going to peace and love their way into getting the things that they want in this country. They haven't done it thus far. So I'm not really sure where we got this. We have to respond to these people all the time with peace and love from. I oppose that idea. Now, if it's all about dialogue, we can talk all day long. But once you put your hands on me, all bets are off. And I have to we have to give a shout out to this group right here. This is the John Brown Gun Club. They showed up heavily armed at a pro-Trump rally in Phoenix, Arizona. Now, this was not the rally in Berkeley, California. I guess the people in the progressives in Berkeley, California, are still on that, that peace and love and sharing some alfalfa tip. But these anti-fascist people in Phoenix, Arizona, they're not having it. They showed up at a Trump rally heavily armed, but please look at their sign. I love this sign so much. Liberty for all working people, migrants, folks of color, indigenous, refugees, trans and queer, Muslims and Jews. We will defend our communities. Now, I know that people are very, very uncomfortable, especially people on the left and in the progressive movement are very, very uncomfortable with gun rights and open carry or concealed carry. Most of y'all don't like guns, but I'm here to tell you, if we are going to defend our communities and we're bringing people into the laundry room of black communities again, of a lot of black thought again. This discussion has been had among black people for decades.
Yep, still being
decades. Like, if white people can open carry and they're defending their Second Amendment rights, aren't we Americans too? Why are we afraid to carry? So these people in the John Brown Gun Club, they took it. I don't think it's a step further. They did exactly what the Constitution says they're allowed to do. They're allowed to legally carry in defense of their communities against what they perceive as a threat. And they do perceive these people who came out to this Make America Great Again march a threat. And this is what their statement to the attendees of the march. And then I love this statement. It said, "We stand for the liberty of all people. We are working class and poor people. We are not here today as your enemies, but Jews, Muslims, migrants, refugees, folks of color, Native people, queer and trans folks, the elderly, or others who are now being targeted by the Trump administration are also not your enemies. We've been fooled and duped for long enough by politicians on all sides. We keep on following the same politicians as they break promise after promise and sell out hard-working, struggling folks." I mean, I'm going to post a link for that up for you so you can read the rest of it yourself. But listen, in defense of my community and in defense of my people, that doesn't mean that I'm going to make you my enemy. You're only going to be my enemy if you attack us. But make no mistake about it, I'm not going to take the attacks on my people lying down, and I'm not going to stand in the street, in a line, holding hands with people, singing Kumbaya and praying that people's hearts be changed. Not when they come to us armed. Nope, not going to do it.
Well, I've always said that when I used to get some of my white friends, when things was going down in Baltimore and Ferguson and the rebellions, the black rebellions that was happening in them places in response to police brutality, and you would have so many of our white allies on the left say, well, that's not what Martin Luther King would want to do. Martin Luther King would, and they would throw the Martin Luther King card out there. And I would say, well, if you want us to be more like Martin Luther King, then you need to be more like John Brown. So John Brown, John Brown was a white ally who was really about that life.
He was about that life.
Not only did he sacrifice himself, his whole family was in the cause. So, we want to talk about black people being peace and love, then you be more like John Brown and see how the two can come together. But my point being is that as this country becomes more and more militarized with the policing and stuff, when we connect it to history, we find out that there had been communities, man, that had to defend themselves against the state. We look at African American communities like Rosewood, Black Wall Street. Those violent assaults were backed by the state. So if you had people at the time who were anti-gun I mean, if you're not, if you don't like guns, that's fine. But what I'm saying is the fact that there has been times in our history when peace-loving people had to defend themselves with the gun. And like I said, if you want, black people have always been the canary in the coal mine in this country. So if you ever want to know what can happen to you, look what happened to black folks, and that will tell you what can happen to everybody else. So we know that in Black Wall Street, the state dropped bombs from the air on black American citizens during the 1920s.
Right.
And it was World War I black soldiers and black civilians in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that had to defend themselves against police and National Guards people that the state sent to kill and crush those people. Right? So they had to defend themselves against that. Then we look at Rosewood. Then we look at the summer of 1919 and the riots then with black folks. Red Summer. When black folks had to defend themselves against police and other organized state-backed forces that came in to try to commit violence on them. So when you look at that, don't think that it's not conceivable that you may have to carry a gun when the state becomes too powerful and too militarized to the point where those same rights that we all are holding on to right now have to be seriously defended.
Right. I mean, it's amazing. And it's something I just found out recently, actually, because people are always talking about Martin Luther King and nonviolence. And yes, nonviolence was absolutely his mantra. But did you know that Martin Luther King Jr. actually applied for a concealed carry permit? Yeah, he did. And he was denied one. Why?
Of course he was.
Because he was a black man in the South. That's why. So, listen, we have got to stop believing that we're going to, that we don't have a right, that we shouldn't defend ourselves against some people who really do mean us harm. Like I said, we tried diplomacy at first, and we'll try diplomacy for as long as we can. That's why I love the John Brown Gun Club's statement that, look, we're here to defend our communities, but we're not your enemies, and the people that your favorite politicians are telling you are your enemies, well, they're not your enemies either. You know, our enemies, all of our enemies, are the same people who are telling you these lies. But make no mistake about it, we're not going to take your provocation lying down. Don't let your president get your, you know what I'm about to finish. I'm not going to say it. So what else? What else do we have on tap, Pun?
Well, I was just listening to what you were saying. But I mean, once again, I just wanted to say that with the whole progressive movement, that a lot of times it comes off as, and I think that's the reason why we as the right has gained so much with this whole Trump election, because I mean, if you look at it, if you're a rank and file average working person, and you listen to even what Barack Obama said when he went up to Pennsylvania about people clinging to their guns and their Bibles and all this elitist talk. And what you find out is that there's a disconnect. And what I'm saying is that even with the whole gun issue, I think with the gun issue, which was one of the things that I had a problem with the Green Party. I think the Green Party was anti-gun or something like that. And I think that, that I just think that that's not a wise thing to put on a platform, because these rights that that we take for granted, man, is being peeled away from us more and more and more. But going back to Afghanistan, there was a lady who came from Afghanistan, and she did an interview on RT, and what she said is that the contamination and because we've been bombing Afghanistan for 16 years straight, that the contamination level of Afghanistan is so great, pardon me, that even when people go to brush their teeth, they spit out black saliva.
Wow.
She said she doesn't even understand how the people make it there. And the fact that, we're just dropping all this other chemical weapons all over the place, it just... we really need to build a strong national anti-war movement.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I was looking for an article that we could reference for that. Let me see if I can. What I found this war pollution can last for generations. And see, this is why these kind of esoteric discussions um, uh, economic theories and who's a pure progressive, this, that, and the third. This is why those kind of discussions don't matter too much to me, because if you want a reason to get out in the streets and agitate to stop military actions, we have them. War pollution is an ongoing menace to millions of people. There are still numerous wars and conflicts taking place across the globe. Some of these are long-running conflicts which are not classed as wars, but involve frequent small-scale incidents and attacks. Others are active conflict zones where military hardware such as bombs, missiles, and tanks are in frequent use. In March 2010, it was revealed that the people of Fallujah in Iraq were suffering a huge increase in children born with severe deformities. The likely culprit is the weapons which U.S. troops used in their pursuit of military objectives. There are countries where conflicts have ceased, but there is still a lasting legacy of damage and pollution from wartime activities. Some sites of military pollution are even from wars which ceased many years ago. In Europe, bombs from the Second World War are still being discovered from time to time. I'm sorry, I thought I was showing you that screen and I'm showing you me reading. That was terrible. But I'll provide the link to that article for you. But I don't understand where the angry anti-war progressive left a movement is. I'm kind of at a loss to understand what people are waiting for, right? Which is why I get so frustrated with these discussions about the economic theories and who's a real progressive or who's a real Democrat, or should we dim enter or should we dim exit, or
why the personality? Why are we eating our own young like the right is doing? Why? I mean, I understand that we were all disappointed with the way things went with Bernie Sanders, but this lambasting Bernie Sanders and on some of these sites that there I go. On some of the progressive sites I go on, man, where it's like they're just roasting Bernie Sanders over damn Spitfire, man. And it's like, it's the same thing that you see that the right does to its people when they when things don't go their way. I mean, again, I think it's just a distraction. All this stuff is a distraction. Instead of mobilizing the several thousand people who are following you and mobilizing the other 100,000 people who are following you, and say, yo, let's all get together and let's form a unified movement. Hey, you know what? How about let's do what Martin Luther King planned to do? How about let's get all our people together, get all working people together from all backgrounds, poor people together, and then and take that march to Washington.
Right.
How about we do that? As opposed to sitting back and talking about, oh, Bernie sold us out. Oh,
Bernie's a sellout.
Right, Bernie's a sellout, and Elizabeth Warren then can eat dust, and and MMT and all this other kind. Why don't we take all of why don't we all come together and say, look, what we need to do is go down there with a list of demands down to the White House and get all of the working poor people from all backgrounds to come down with us and demand that we have our own agenda and our own progressive agenda and go down there and do that.
Right.
And unify the people in that way.
Right. I mean, and if you can't make it to the White House, then you have State House where you live. If you can't make it to your state's capital, you have a county courthouse where your legislators do. You can do this on every level, and even if you are not real comfortable with coming out of your house, and you're not sure if you're ready for that kind of thing, that's okay, because like I said, we are in the generation where we are the most technologically advanced generation that's ever existed. We are the most socially connected more than any other generation. We can talk to people around the world. We know what's going on around the world almost faster than we know what's going on in our own city. So there are opportunities to connect with groups of people online who are sharing information, people who are running for office, who are espousing the ideals that we agree upon, progressive candidates, even some Democratic candidates who are pushing progressive ideals that we can support with our money if we have a little bit of change to throw at somebody, or we can find local politicians who are running for office. One of the places where you can do that, you're on Facebook right now. Please go over to Progressive Independent Party. Find PIP, Progressive Independent Party, on Facebook. Erikel Bloss did an amazing job starting this organization, and it is growing, and they are planning a massive May Day strike. And they need support and help. So go find them on Facebook if you don't know what to do. If you're not sure who to connect with in your area. Progressive Independent Party. Go find other groups like that on Facebook. Actually, and now let me see if I can get this right, because I do actually want to show this to you. Here is a way that you can definitely get involved in an anti-war kind of movement. It may seem a little weird at first, but hear me out. Hear me out here. So the White House, in their infinite wisdom, has published a survey. They're serious about this, you guys. They need our input reorganizing the executive branch. Now, again, this is one of those things where if you don't know, you want to do something, you don't know if you have a voice that anybody wants to hear in what's going on as far as the military or the environment or whatever it is concerned, well, here's your chance. They're asking. They want our help reorganizing the executive branch. We need your input, they say. President Trump wants to hear your ideas and suggestions on how the government can better be organized to work for the American people. Share your ideas below by June 12th. And as you can see, they're asking, what agency would we like to reform? Oh, I don't know. I'm just going to go down here and select the one that I have the biggest problem with, the Department of Defense, the full department. You can also select other agencies. They've got every agency that exists. This is a real survey on the White House website. Luke Mon Nation isn't making this up. This is the Trump administration. Then it asks to share your ideas, including. So think this out, y'all. Don't just go on here and put up a bunch of snarky, snotty, slogans. And no, actually think this out. Then it asks, what agency would you like to eliminate? I know that's the easy one right there, right? And I think you can actually select more than one. Yes, you can. You can select more than one. If you select one, hold down the control key, and then select another one, you can select more than one. I don't want to eliminate the Department of Agriculture. Let me unclick that. But let me go down here and see what's the other one. Now, these are just my suggestions for what you might want to include on on your survey. Department of Homeland Security. We already have a Department of Defense. I don't know why we need a Department of Homeland Security, but that's just my thing. Let me see. Where is it?
I would like to give it the IRS.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for, okay, let's click on that one. Department of the Treasury, the Internal Revenue Service. I was looking for the White House. Actually, is it not on this one?
They're probably not going to put that on there.
But it was, though. It was on one of them. Okay, wait a minute. Let me see. Let me see if I can find the White House on here. Because there it is.
Yeah.
The executive office of the president.
Well, I mean, that's
there it is.
That's in the Constitution. I don't think.
Yeah, we can't get rid of the
executive office.
We can't get rid of the executive office of the president. We can't get rid of the White House. But here's the thing.
I mean, but for them to even put that on the list.
Exactly. So then it goes down to list any specific programs and then ask you to select why, and you can put other on there and it'll give you, again, y'all, because I know how we progressives can get. We like to be snarky, and don't be snarky. Give an actual reason.
Well, and I'm gonna tell you why snarkiness doesn't work for progressives anymore.
Why?
Because again, man, people don't like folks that. I mean, again, we're talking about people. Real. I'm talking about. We're talking about real life people who already feel like everybody else looks down upon them.
Right.
So now you're getting all snarky and stuff,
right.
And then they're gonna be like, well, you know what? Screw you.
Exactly.
I'm gonna put this dumbass in the White House because at least he talks. He talks my language.
He talks to me.
He talks to me.
That's instead of not at me or down to me.
And
of course, you cannot submit this form unless you submit your name. So don't be afraid to submit your name. I know, y'all. That's very scary. It's a very scary thing. And we actually are going to submit our form. I'm going to put some stuff together and I'm going to put some thought into it. But there is one tangible, right now, you can do it this week way to get involved in engaging and resisting and fighting for a change in our government. That's one amazing way that you can make your voice be heard. Don't let this opportunity pass, and the only people who respond to this ridiculous survey, because it is a ridiculous survey, it is, who would do that? It's a ridiculous survey. But since they're the ones who put it up there, since they're the ones who want to hear from the American people on how the government can be restructured so that it works better for the American people, let them hear your voice. If you don't want to get out in the streets in March because people in Afghanistan are spitting out black water because of all the pollution that we have left in their country from a decade plus of bombing, if that's not enough to get you out in the street, if deformed babies being born from all of the pollution and waste from military ordinances being rained on countries, if that's not enough to get you out in the street, if the prospect of your child possibly being drafted to fight more wars isn't enough to get you out in the streets, then the least you can do is sit at your computer and fill out this survey and let the White House know how you feel.
And then, I mean, if we don't do it, then we don't have any defense against the terrorists when they attack us and say that there is no such thing as innocent civilians. Because you don't look at our civilians as being innocent.
Mm-hmm.
Under Obama's reign, over 90% of the victims of drone strikes were civilians. And, and we heard it time and time again until we have become desensitized to it, where it's like, oh, collateral damage. I mean, even our language, man, we just removed the human tragedy of war out of our minds.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, collateral damage, or we took every precaution to eliminate or to reduce civilian casualties. Oh, but our bag, we just killed the whole wedding party, and
oops.
That was just collateral damage. But see, every life taken has repercussions. And so when the terrorists come at us, whether it's in France or somewhere else, or they hit us here, and they tell us, well, we just, there's no such thing as innocent civilians, and we get all offended when they say that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have anything to do with it. But the thing of it is, where they're coming from, we don't look at their civilians as innocent. At least our government doesn't.
Right.
And then they look at our response, and we go off clicking on our smartphones and stuff, and we don't care. We ho hum, and we want to know what the Kardashians are doing. That would piss me off too if I was from that part of the country,
right,
and I lost my whole family. I'd be like, you know what? Y'all don't give a fuck about us, so guess what? We're coming after you.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to go out there again and take back the reins of government. Is basically what we're saying.
Right.
To take back the reins of government. So, Jackie, you're right. If we don't go out there and let our voices be known, that we're not down with this shit. You know what I mean? And that's basically what we're saying. We ain't down with this shit.
Right, exactly.
Not in our name.
Right. But here's the bad thing, and we've got, I try to ignore the clock, but I don't want to monopolize you all's time. Because you know us.
No, I do got, before we go, I do got one more story I wanted to
Oh, okay, good. One more story.
Well, this is, getting off the war thing. This goes to our life on the planet survival thing. I know because
Why is that important?
no, it pisses me off, man, because I just don't think that we look at this environmental stuff seriously enough, man.
We don't. Some
But
of us don't.
yeah, some of us don't. But anyway, I found this story. I saw it on TV today, but I
Hmm.
think I shared it with you.
Hmm.
A giant crack in West Antarctic ice sheet leaves scientists concerned over unstoppable collapse of Amundsen Sea. I think I'm saying it, pronouncing that right. Amundsen Sea sector. All right, just a little bit of it. It says last year, a 225 square mile chunk of West Antarctica's Pine Island Glacier broke off and tumbled into the sea. Now, Earth scientists at Ohio State University have pinpointed the root cause of the iceberg Calvin event, a crack that started deep below ground and 20 miles inland. And so one scientist is reporting and saying that it's nothing like they ever seen before, and it doesn't bode well for the ice sheet's future. So basically, what they're saying is that there's already one crack, which is towards the tip of the this ice glacier.
Hmm.
Now there's one that's like intersecting it, like somebody just took a knife and went across, and it's so large that if that piece falls off, and in 5 to 6 years, this crack has already grown like 14 miles.
Wow.
So I mean, so now they're talking about that we had the hottest year on record last year. We're probably looking forward to another hot year this year, hottest year on record. And so they're saying that if this falls and if this thing keeps happening and falls into the sea, this is going to cause global ocean level rises and it could be
Hmm.
bad, especially for poor countries that don't have the resources to defend themselves against this stuff. And not to mention island nations,
Right.
which
Right.
are more vulnerable to that.
Right. I mean, we look at this kind of stuff, um, and we say, well, why is that important? Why is that? You and I, hun, we love our apocalyptic movies, right? We
Hmm.
love our Armageddon movies,
Yeah.
and if it's like a natural disaster kind of movie, that's even better because
But it's fun when it's make believe.
right, it's fun when it's make believe,
It's
but
fun
it
I
is
want to be actually living that.
but it is very interesting that of all of the apocalyptic disaster movies that we've watched, that we love, so many of them have the theme of rising oceans and global warming in them, even though they may not have called it global warming. And this would really be a horrible example of art imitating life
Mm.
if we do nothing about this. And at this point, what was the movie that we watched where? Oh no, it wasn't a movie. It was The Newsroom. It was one where
Oh yeah,
we're
yeah.
television junkies in the Lukman house. We're sorry that we're not so intellectually advanced that we've thrown our televisions out. But House of Cards is good, and
Yeah.
Orange is the New Black is coming back. So look, that
And Shameless.
and Shameless is great. So and Luke Cage.
Yeah.
Listen, so don't ask for that much from us. But we also learn a lot from the stuff because we always talk about the documentaries we watch. But we were watching an episode of The Newsroom where the junior cub reporter goes and finds this guy who works at the Department of the Energy or Department of the Interior, and he does this report on global warming that basically says we're all going to die and we're too late, right? So she gets a hold of this report. She goes and tells Will McAvoy's character, that look, I've got this guy. He's great. I've broken this global warming story, and you could see in the interview that McAvoy was not expecting this man, who is an expert on climate science, to give the doomsday prediction that he gave, because what he said when he got on the air was, "Listen, we had a chance to reverse this 20 years ago." 40 years ago, 60 years ago. We knew it was happening then and we did nothing. And now we're at the point where it is too late. And McAvoy is taken aback. He's stumbling for words and he's trying to get the guy to go to some positive spin, to leave on a positive note. There must be something we can do. And he keeps asking him, well, surely if we cut emissions by XYZ, surely if we switch to fossil fuels in the next 10 years, surely if we do those things. But this expert kept saying, yeah, we could do those things. And it still wouldn't matter because we're still all going to die.
And I think, and one of the things he said that I like, what he said. So, what can we do now that would prevent future generations from being affected by it? He said, babies have already been born that's going to die from climate change.
Right, right. So that one statement, that one comment, babies have already been born who are going to die from climate change. That's almost where we are. That situation, that environment, that future, that very terrifying fact is almost where we are in this country. And what is happening with the ice caps in Antarctica, with the ice shelves, it's it is it's the manifestation of us inching ever closer to the point of no return. We're at the Rubicon.
I mean, it's a war that we're not going to win, man. We're talking about, a planet that, we're not going to win this. And when we have leaders who are talking about defunding the EPA, leaders who are talking about, putting this junk science out there, talking about, it's not really man-made climate change. It's not. These are just climatic events that happen every time. When they start putting that stuff out there, and again, this is a fight that we have to lead and say no. We are not going to go for this kind of stuff. We're not going to go for you defunding the EPA. We're not going to go for you defunding the EPA while you give more and more money to the Pentagon.
Right.
We're not going to go for you saying that you don't want poison babies in Syria, but you're poisoning our babies and stuff in Flint and other places. So we have to go out there and realize again that since we understand MMT and that they can pay for whatever the hell they want, well then we want the EPA to be well funded. We want our waters cleaned up. We want all of these things now that we know we understand MMT and we understand that you can pay for it.
Right.
That's my answer to the MMT crowd. All right. What next?
Right.
Okay. Now that we understand MMT, then what next? Well, what next is that okay? We go with our diplomas in hand because we graduated MMT class. Then we go down there to the government and be like, I understand what you're doing. God, I want my shit paid for. I want the EPA. I want clean water. I want all this stuff. Don't tell me that you got to take my taxes.
Shame on you.
I just graduated from MMT class and I know you can pay for it.
So, thank you guys for joining us. Let me just say that, let me end on this. I haven't done a commentary in a while, so I'm going to do a very, very short commentary. Because today is Easter, and like I said, whether you commemorate Easter for religious reasons or whether you commemorate Easter for other reasons or whether you don't commemorate Easter at all, as a Christian, I have to say that the whole idea of the way American Christians have behaved and approached politics in this country in the past 50, 60 years, probably before I was born, actually, has been an appalling affront to my faith. And it should be to a lot of other Christians, but it's not. And you know why it's not? Because Americans' religion isn't Christianity. Americans' religion is very simply greed. We are some greedy, money-hungry. Money is king in this country. And for Christians, for that to be true, it is an absolute, complete contradiction to the faith that we claim to live by and espouse. Because our faith tells us that we can't serve God and money. We're not supposed to. Because if we're serving money, money's going to tell us to do all kinds of crazy stuff that God hates. If we serve God, then we're not going to be so focused on amassing a whole bunch of money. So we can't serve God and money at the same time. That's what our Bible tells us. And our Bible also tells us, Christians, that it is the love of money that is the root of all evil. See, people who are not of the faith and who can't stand Christianity, and Christians always get that scripture wrong. They always say money is the root of all evil. No, it's not money that is the root of all evil. The Bible tells us that it is the love of money that is the root of all evil. Because what do you do when you love something? You devote your entire being to focusing on it, keeping it, getting more of it, making it grow, rolling around in it. So it's not money that's evil, it's the love of money that's the root of all evil. So I don't understand how people in America who call themselves Christians can sit by and continue to parrot the lies of a political party that covered up its desire to keep racist segregation academies from paying taxes by making abortion and gay marriage the causes for the Christian moral majority. I don't get how these people who claim the Christ that I know is the revolutionary who drove the money changers out of the temple, who were stealing from the people who were coming to worship. How do you continue to support politicians who with one hand are reaching into your pocket, taking your hard-earned money, and with the other hand are pointing at poor people, black people, Latinos, gay and trans people, Muslims, and people who aren't like you, white Republican Christians, telling you that, look, those people over there are the problem. So while you're looking down their arm at who is standing at the end of their pointing, accusing finger of who they're telling you the problem is, you're not paying any attention to the fact that their hand is in your pocket, taking what's yours. And all the while, you sit there and you tell Christians like me that the reason you support these politicians is because you don't like to kill babies. Somehow you don't have a problem with these politicians killing babies in other countries. The only babies you're concerned about are the ones that are in the womb. Because as soon as those babies pop out of the womb, you don't want to give their mamas welfare benefits so they can feed them. As much as it bothers me, no, it doesn't bother me. As much as it pisses me off when I hear progressives and Democrats and people who believe that they are so much more enlightened than silly old Christian me, that they've shrugged off the chains of the white man's Jesus and they don't believe in Christianity anymore. As much as it pisses me off that people like that condemn Christians for believing in something they don't believe in, it pisses me off even more when Christians refuse to do what our faith commands us to do. And that is not to protect the lives of the unborn, not to keep gay people from marrying each other. No, it is to seek justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with our God. We are commanded to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. So I have to ask myself, and I hope my fellow Christian brothers and sisters, whether you vote for Republicans or Democrats, I hope you start asking yourselves too. If I'm being discriminated against, do I want people to pray for me, or do I want people to do something that's going to stop the discrimination from happening? If I am being denied equal access and opportunity, do I want people to pray for the people who are denying me that equal access and opportunity for their hearts to change? Or do I want people to do something to make the playing field level and equal for me? If I'm doing something that other people don't like, that other people might not agree with, do I want them to condemn me and the thing that I'm doing and pray that my eternal soul gets into heaven? Or do I want them to give me the mercy that so many of them want from me when they do crap that I don't like? And do I want them to pray that God's kingdom comes in another lifetime and I get my mansion in the sky after I die? Or do I want people to work toward a better life and equality for me and everybody else on this earth? Because I swear to God, Christians, if you're not asking yourselves those questions, and if you're not answering those questions along the veins of, no, I would want for someone to do for me right now, here on earth, things that will help me to live a better, more equal, more just, more safe, more accepted, more included life. Regardless of how they feel about what I believe, that's what I want for someone to do for me. If you're not saying that about yourself, then I know damn well you're not doing it for anybody else. And I know you're not because of who we have in the White House and all of you Christians who voted for him. So on this Easter, please do celebrate the resurrection of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and get your life together and actually live the life he commands us to live. Thanks for joining us on Lukman Nation. Have a good week.